Welcome to my channel. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and like. In the sterile, white brilliance of Earth's diplomatic reception center, a loud thud echoed as Jake Hawk Sullivan slammed his fist into the teleportation gate's control panel. The gate's blue light flickered mockingly, like a dying firefly in the dead of night. "Damn alien tech!" Jake muttered, his low, gravelly voice cutting through the hum of machinery, muffled slightly by the jet-black beard framing his chiseled jaw. Sweat beaded on his forehead, trickling down his face and soaking into the tight technician shirt clinging to his muscular frame, honed by hours of grueling work. It had been nearly 8 hours since Jake began wrestling with the interspace teleportation gate, a marvel of technology gifted by the Zykari, a civilization renowned for precision bordering on obsession and a thinly veiled arrogance. As the lead engineer of the Interplanetary Technical Corps, Jake wasn't chosen just for his exceptional skill but for his ability to stay cool under pressure. Today, though, the gate seemed to have a mind of its own, defying every attempt to tame it. With only 25 minutes until Zykari Ambassador Tvara was due to step through, a malfunctioning gate would be an unforgivable insult under the Zykari's rigid diplomatic standards. Jake ran a hand through his disheveled brown hair, matted with sweat. He took a deep breath, his broad chest expanding, pushing back the fatigue gripping his body. His calloused fingers, scarred from years of wrenching machines into submission, danced across the control panel with surgical precision. The gate room was an odd fusion. Zykari architecture was smooth, pearl-like curves clashed with the sharp, utilitarian angles of human design. The gate itself loomed at the center, a 3-meter-tall metal ring pulsing with mesmerizing blue light, like a doorway to distant stars. It wasn't just a device, it was the fragile symbol of the alliance between Earth and Zykari, humanity's boldest leap into the cosmos. Diagnostics complete. Calibration at 94%. The emotionless voice of the central AI, dubbed Aegis, announced through the speakers, interrupting Jake's thoughts. Gate stability approaching optimal, but minor energy fluctuations detected. "Time to behave, you stubborn bastard," Jake muttered, a thin smirk tugging at his lips. He straightened, rolling his shoulders, muscles protesting after hours hunched over the panel. His sweat-soaked shirt hugged his brawny frame, highlighting the physique forged in harsh technical worksites. He grabbed a rag from his toolkit, wiped his brow, and draped it around his neck, the rough fabric grounding him. He checked the status screen, where numbers and graphs danced, signaling the gate's gradual stabilization. "Gate stability at 98%, Aegis reported, its monotone voice oddly reassuring. "Ready for teleportation in 12 minutes. Jake exhaled, glancing at his wristwatch, a battered heirloom from his father, another engineer who dreamed of the stars. 12 minutes, he murmured, standing tall, adjusting his posture to prepare for Ambassador Tvara and her entourage. According to diplomatic briefs, the Zykari were humanoid, their silver skin shimmering like liquid metal under light. Their emerald eyes, said to pierce through pretense, glowed with an otherworldly intensity. Known for near-perfect punctuality and stern demeanor, they deeply respected those who proved exceptional competence. Jake stepped away from the panel, positioning himself before the gate, scanning the room to ensure everything was ready. The gate's metal surface reflected his image, a tall man with tousled brown hair, sharp eyes shadowed by exhaustion. He reminded himself this wasn't just a technical job. It was a chance for humanity to prove its worth to a civilization that had conquered stars millennia before Earth's first rockets. Suddenly, the gate's blue light surged, its rhythm quickening like a racing heartbeat. Jake frowned, a knot of unease tightening in his chest. This wasn't the standard activation sequence he'd studied for hundreds of hours in Zykari technical manuals. The energy field began to swirl violently, a contained storm in the confined space. The status screens flashed red, and Aegis's voice cut through, eerily calm. "Warning, anomalous energy signature detected. Gate stability dropping to 85%. Recommend emergency shutdown." "What the hell?" Jake lunged for the panel, reaching for the emergency shutoff, his heart pounding. He'd handled crises before, overloaded reactors, experimental weapons systems, but never alien tech spiraling out of control. His fingers were inches from the red button when the gate erupted in a blinding flash, forcing him to shield his eyes with his arm. As the light faded, Jake lowered his arm, and his heart skipped a beat. Standing in the center of the room, directly before the gate, was a Zykari woman, stark naked. Her silver skin gleamed under the artificial light, as if dusted with liquid diamonds. Droplets of teleportation fluid, a byproduct of interspace transit, clung to her slender frame, scattering tiny prisms of light. Her platinum-white hair cascaded to her waist, interwoven with delicate, tendril-like strands adorned with faint blue patterns, swaying as if stirred by an unseen breeze. Her emerald eyes, wide with confusion, blazed with sharp intelligence as they locked onto Jake. "Something's definitely wrong," she whispered, her voice a melodic hum laced with urgency. She raised a hand to cover herself, though the gesture seemed more to ease Jake's discomfort than her own, as if nudity were a minor inconvenience. Jake's face burned, heat rushing to his cheeks. He yanked the rag from his neck, tossing it to her, and turned away to preserve some semblance of decorum. "I wasn't expecting you," he stammered, his usual professionalism crumbling. "Where's the ambassador?" "This gate's for Tvara." "Ambassador?" The woman wrapped the rag around herself, barely covering the essentials, though the thin fabric did little to hide her form. She stepped out of the gate's glow, her eyes now sharp as a blade. "No, this is worse than I thought. I'm Solara, security officer of the Zykari Diplomatic Corps. And I believe someone just tried to sabotage your summit." Jake turned back, forcing his eyes to stay on her face, though the rag's precarious hold tested his focus. He took a breath, steadying himself, and glanced at the gate's status screen, where numbers still flickered chaotically. "Sabotage how? Explain." Solara clutched the rag, her voice urgent but composed, the mark of someone trained for crises. "I detected interference in the gate's coordinates just before I was forced through. If Ambassador Tvara teleports now, she'll be trapped in another dimension, a trap designed to eliminate her and shatter the Earth-Zykari alliance." Jake's eyes flicked to the screen. A countdown timer blinked, 10 minutes until Tvara's scheduled arrival. "Got proof?" he asked, skepticism in his tone, though his gut told him Solara wasn't lying. Solara's lips curved into a faint, sardonic smile. She gestured at herself, the rag barely clinging on. "You think I chose to arrive like this? The conspirators caught me accessing their security systems. They didn't have time to detain me properly, so they shoved me through the nearest gate, yours, after disabling the matter reconstruction protocol." It clicked for Jake, like a puzzle piece snapping into place. The matter reconstruction protocol ensured clothing and gear were reassembled during teleportation. If disabled, the result was... "So you showed up like that?" he said, suppressing a grin at the absurdity. "Exactly," Solara replied, her eyes glinting with humor despite the stakes. "In Zykari culture, nudity's no big deal, just a natural state, not offensive. But your reaction..." She paused, her lips twitching. "It's cute in a human way." Jake's face heated again, but he shook it off. "Fine, we need clothes for you and security on this." He strode to a wall panel, opened an emergency storage compartment, and pulled out a gray technician's jumpsuit, handing it to her without looking. "Not high fashion, but better than that rag." "Thanks," Solara said, taking the jumpsuit with a slight nod. "I find human modesty intriguing. It's different from how we view the body." As Solara dressed behind him, Jake activated his comms, his voice sharp. "Sullivan here. We've got a problem with the Zykari delegation. Possible gate sabotage. I need Commander Ramirez now." "Negative, Sullivan," a curt voice crackled back. "Ramirez is escorting the ambassador's advance team from the landing bay. ETA 5 minutes. Damn it," Jake muttered, fingers tapping the panel. "We need to warn them before Tvara steps through." Solara, now in the oversized jumpsuit, joined him at the panel, her eyes scanning the Zykari interface. "Too late for standard comms," she said, her voice low but firm. "The saboteurs will monitor all signals." If we send a warning, they'll know we're onto them. Her fingers flew across the controls with practiced ease. I can recalibrate the gate's coordinates to keep the ambassador safe, but I need your help. I'm security, not tech. Jake stood close, catching a faint scent from her, like mint mixed with molten metal, that briefly threw him off. All right, he said, keeping his tone steady. What do you know about gate protocols? Solara grinned, her fingers moving faster, Zykari glyphs glowing under her touch. In Zykari culture, sharing knowledge is intimate, almost sacred. You could say we're getting close already. Jake chuckled, the tension easing slightly at her wit. So this is our first date? Not yet, she shot back, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Zykari usually prefer dinner before the knowledge-sharing part. They worked in sync, as if they'd known each other for years. Jake's technical expertise, honed through years of taming machines, meshed seamlessly with Solara's security knowledge. Their fingers moved over the panel like a choreographed dance, each anticipating the other's next move. As they recalibrated the coordinates, Jake felt an odd connection, not just professional synergy, but something deeper, like a shared pulse. Suddenly Aegis broke the silence. Incoming teleportation request. Gate activation in 30 seconds. They're early. Jake snapped, his hand freezing on the panel, heart racing. We need more time. Solara bit her lip, a surprisingly human gesture, her eyes darting across the screen. If we reject the request, the saboteurs will know something's wrong. They might accelerate their plan. Then stall. Jake said, his eyes lighting up with an idea. Send a calibration error notice. Zykari protocol requires a 3-minute wait before retrying. Smart. Solara nodded, her fingers tapping out a command, the screen's glow reflecting in her emerald eyes. That buys us time. They worked shoulder to shoulder, their movements fluid, like a well-oiled machine. When the recalibration finished, the gate hummed steadily, its blue light smooth and radiant. Done, Solara said, her shoulder brushing Jake's, sending a faint jolt through him. Just in time, Jake replied, feeling their closeness. He met her gaze and she held it, as if they both sensed something bigger sparking between them, a connection beyond species. As the gate activated, its blue light flared, but it wasn't Tvara who emerged. A tall Zykari man stepped through, his silver skin glinting, his eyes a burning red instead of the typical emerald. Clad in sharp-edged Zykari battle armor, he gripped a glowing device that looked like an energy weapon. Solara, he growled, his voice thundering. You've ruined everything. Jake reacted instantly, shoving Solara behind him, his body tensing like a coiled spring. Who are you, and why are you here? He demanded, his voice cutting, eyes locked on the Zykari. The man sneered, his red eyes flashing with menace. I'm Koran, Tvara's security commander. And she, he jabbed a finger at Solara, has betrayed us. This gate will never work right again. Solara gripped Jake's arm, her voice steady but urgent. Koran's part of the conspiracy. He wants to destroy the Alliance to spark a war between Earth and Zykari. Jake's eyes darted between Solara and Koran, his heart pounding. With Earth's security team minutes away, he realized the situation had just gotten a lot more complicated. He had to decide who to trust, and how to stop a diplomatic disaster that could shatter the fragile alliance between their species. Jake Sullivan gripped Solara's hand, his sharp eyes fixed on Koran, the armored Zykari towering before the teleportation gate. The device in Koran's hand emitted a menacing hum, like a machine teetering on the edge of overload. His crimson eyes blazed under the gate's flickering blue light, twin embers in the darkness. You've gone too far, Solara. Koran growled, his voice a thunderclap echoing through the sterile white room. You think you can stop us? This alliance is a mistake, and I'll see it crumble before the sun sets. Jake tightened his hold on Solara, feeling a faint tremor in her palm, but her gaze remained steely, unyielding. He whispered, low enough for only her to hear, his eyes still locked on Koran. You know this guy? Who is he to you? My former commander. Solara replied, her voice low but resolute. Koran was security chief for the Zykari diplomatic corps, someone I thought was fiercely loyal to Ambassador Tvara. But now, she shook her head, her eyes glinting with disappointment and worry. I never suspected he'd be behind this. Or maybe he's just a pawn. Jake scanned the room, assessing the situation with the calm of an engineer accustomed to crises. The gate hummed, but its blue light wavered, like the pulse of a dying machine. Status screens on the control panel flashed red, signaling growing instability. Earth's security team would arrive in minutes, but if Koran activated his device, the consequences could be catastrophic, not just for this gate, but for the entire interspace network linking Earth and Zykari. He needed time, and more importantly, a plan. All right, Koran, Jake said, his voice steady but sharp as a blade, buying time. What do you want? Destroy the gate? Start a war between our species? Spill it, so we can settle this like civilized people. Koran's laugh was cold, humorless, his crimson eyes narrowing with contempt. Civilized? You humans know nothing of the universe. You think you can stand as equals with Zykari? We conquered stars, built empires while you crawled in caves, fighting over scraps. Jake shrugged, feigning nonchalance, though his heart pounded. He took a subtle step, positioning himself closer to the control panel without raising Koran's suspicion. Then why are you so scared of us? He asked, a hint of mockery in his tone. If we're as weak as you claim, why risk sabotaging the summit? Is it because you know humans can do things Zykari never saw coming? Koran's eyes narrowed, clearly provoked, which was exactly what Jake wanted. He stepped forward, raising the device like a threat. Don't test me, human. This device will trigger an energy pulse, collapsing the entire gate network. Not just this gate, every linked gate, from Earth to the farthest Zykari colonies. Your alliance will burn to ash, and Zykari will rise from the ruins. Solara stepped up beside Jake, her gaze hard as steel, fearless before her former superior. Koran, you're betraying your own people, she said, her voice icy. This alliance brings peace, prosperity for both species. Destroying it only leads to war, a war no one wins. Peace? Koran roared, his voice crashing like waves against stone. Peace with humans weakens Zykari. We don't need you, but you need us to survive. I'll prove it starting here. Jake realized reasoning with Koran was futile. He wasn't just blinded by pride, he was driven by a dangerous ideology. He whispered to Solara, barely audible. Can you disable that device if we get it? Solara's eyes flicked to the device, scanning its details with a security officer's precision. If I get close, I can input an emergency lockdown code, she replied, her voice low but confident. But Koran won't let me near it easily. He's trained to fight, and he never leaves an opening. I'll handle that, Jake said, his eyes glinting with a bold plan. He stepped forward, raising his hands as if surrendering, though his body remained taut, ready to spring. All right, Koran, you win, he said, his tone deliberately soft. But if you're going to blow everything up, at least tell me why. Who's pulling your strings? Does Tvara know about this? Koran hesitated, his crimson eyes flashing with suspicion. He clearly hadn't expected Jake's compliance, and that moment of doubt was the crack Jake needed. He stepped back, feigning a stumble into the control panel, his hand swiftly hitting a button to trigger an emergency maintenance protocol. The gate let out a sharp pop, its blue light flaring chaotically, like a storm of light erupting in the confined space. Koran flinched, turning toward the gate, his grip on the device loosening slightly. Solara moved like a shadow. She lunged, swift and graceful, using a Zykari martial art move, fluid yet deadly. Her fingers snatched the device from Koran's hand before he could react. But Koran wasn't easily bested. He swung a lightning-fast punch, striking Solara's shoulder, sending her crashing to the metal floor with a harsh thud. Jake didn't hesitate. He charged Koran, using his full weight to tackle him to the ground. The struggle was brief but brutal, a clash of species. Koran was taller, stronger, with a Zykari warrior's raw power, but Jake was quick and unafraid to fight dirty. He recalled a detail Solara had mentioned during their earlier work. The spot just below Zykari's ribs was a biological weak point. Jake drove a precise fist into that spot, making Koran grunt in pain, his body faltering for a split second. Jake seized the moment, locking Koran's arm in a wrestling hold from his core training days. Solara scrambled to her feet, grabbing the device from the floor. Her fingers flew across its Zykari interface, inputting a command sequence with astonishing speed. The device's hum ceased, its red light fading like a tamed beast. Done! She gasped, sweat glistening on her silver skin. It's disabled. Jake held Koran firm, his eyes flicking to Solara, admiration unguarded. Nice work, he said, his voice low but warm. You okay? Solara nodded, but before they could celebrate, the gate blazed again, its blue light roaring like a fire. Ambassador Tvara stepped through, clad in a resplendent gown, its silver curves hugging her form, exuding authority. Her emerald eyes swept the room, pausing on Koran pinned by Jake, then shifting to Solara holding the device. Officer Solara, Tvara said, her voice cold as ice, sharp as a blade. Explain. Now. Tvara showed no surprise at Koran's presence, or the conspiracy. She stood tall, unflinching, and said, I knew of this plot from the start. Koran acted under my orders. Jake released Koran, stunned, feeling the floor drop beneath him. You were behind this? He asked, his voice trembling with anger and disbelief. Why? Why put us in danger? Tvara smiled, a smile devoid of warmth, as if surveying a chessboard. This alliance is too fragile, Engineer Sullivan, she said, her voice calm but commanding. Without a crisis to unite Earth and Zykari, it would collapse within months. Koran was instructed to create a threat, not to destroy, but to prove our species can overcome danger together. Your collaboration with Solara is the evidence I needed. Solara shook her head, her eyes burning with disappointment, her hand clenching the device as if to crush it. You manipulated us all, she said, her voice quaking with fury. Including me. My arrival through the gate, naked in front of him, was that part of your plan too? Yes, Tvara admitted unflinching. I needed a human and a Zykari who could work seamlessly under pressure. Your unexpected arrival forced you two to cooperate instantly. And you, Sullivan, proved humans aren't just cave crawlers, as Koran believes. Jake gripped Solara's hand, feeling her tremble, a surge of anger rising in his chest. So this was all a political game? He asked, his voice low but cutting. You risked our lives, made us fight a guy like Koran, just to make a point? To save both species, Tvara replied, her eyes flashing with conviction. But it seems my plan was hijacked. She turned to Koran, her voice turning razor sharp. Koran, who ordered you to activate the device early? My plan called for a fake threat, not actual destruction. Koran, still pinned by Jake, sneered, his smile dripping with disdain. You thought I was loyal to you, Tvara? There are others, those who believe Zykari don't need humans. They upgraded this device to destroy the entire gate network, not just cause panic as you intended. You've been outplayed, Ambassador. Koran revealed a shadowy group called Vanguard of Purity, a Zykari extremist faction that had infiltrated Tvara's plan, turning it into a real plot to shatter the alliance. He wasn't acting alone. Vanguard was a broader network, including Earth government insiders eager to spark war for their own gain. Tvara signaled the security team, who burst through the main door, to seize Koran. He was dragged away, but not before casting a defiant glare at Jake and Solara. Tvara turned to them, her eyes now holding a new respect. You've exceeded all expectations, she said. But we're not done. I need you for a more dangerous mission. Infiltrate tonight's diplomatic gala on the Nexus space station to identify Vanguard of Purity members before they trigger their backup plan. Jake and Solara exchanged a glance, a silent understanding passing between them. Though manipulated, they knew the Earth-Zykari alliance teetered on the brink. We're in, Solara said, squeezing Jake's hand, her eyes blazing with resolve. But on one condition, no more secrets. We need full transparency, no holding back. Tvara nodded, a rare gesture of concession. Agreed. You'll pose as an interspecies couple, a Zykari noble and her human partner. It's the perfect cover, given your... She paused, a subtle smile curving her lips. Clearly budding connection. Jake felt his face heat, but Solara just smiled, her eyes sparkling with newfound confidence, as if embracing the pull drawing them closer. They were escorted to a luxurious diplomatic suite on the reception center's upper floors, its transparent walls offering a view of the starlit night. The room felt both serene and charged with urgency. A Zykari gown for Solara and a human Zykari hybrid tuxedo for Jake awaited on a glass table. In the privacy of the suite, Solara sat beside Jake, her gaze softening as she explained the Zykari soul link, a process of harmonizing bioenergy between two individuals, essential to convince other Zykari they were a true couple. This isn't just an act, Jake, she said, placing a hand on his cheek, the warmth of her silver skin making him pause. The soul link is a deep commitment. If we do this, you'll feel me, my thoughts, my emotions, everything. And I'll feel you. Jake swallowed, drawn to Solara, not just her otherworldly beauty, with her platinum hair and emerald eyes, but her intelligence, courage, and sincerity. I'm ready, he said, his voice lower than intended, his eyes locked on hers. We're saving the universe, right? Solara laughed, a sound like wind chimes, and they began the process. Jake felt a warm energy flow through him, like an invisible river binding their minds and hearts. When it was done, he sensed a profound connection with Solara, as if she were part of him, and he of her. He felt her anxiety, but also her fierce resolve, and it made him feel stronger than ever. But as they prepared to leave, an encrypted message flashed on Solara's personal comm device. The screen flickered, displaying a brief line from an unknown source. Be careful. Tvara isn't what she seems. Vanguard of Purity runs deeper than you think. Jake looked at Solara, his heart racing. What's this? Another trap? Solara shook her head, her eyes darkening. I don't know. But if this message is true, we're walking into a game far more dangerous than Tvara's let on. Jake Sullivan and Solara stepped into the Nexus Space Station's Grand Diplomatic Hall, the light from its transparent walls bouncing off Solara's resplendent Zykari gown. The dress, with flowing patterns shifting from emerald to silver, shimmered like a river of light across her metallic skin, accentuating her otherworldly allure. Jake, in a tuxedo blending human tailoring with Zykari metallic accents, felt out of place among the galaxy's elite diplomats. But Solara's presence, her hand resting lightly in his, anchored him like a lifeline in a storm. Their soul link, forged through a Zykari ritual harmonizing bioenergy, made every gesture, every glance seamless, as if they'd been an interspecies couple for years. The diplomatic gala unfolded in opulent splendor, with crystal chandeliers floating midair, casting star-like glimmers. Holographic art danced on the walls, depicting swirling galaxies and alien worlds. Guests from across the cosmos, draped in shimmering fabrics and color-shifting silks, mingled, their laughter and chatter weaving a symphony of diplomacy. But Jake and Solara weren't here to bask in the grandeur. They carried a heavy mission, to unmask members of the Vanguard of Purity, the extremist group bent on destroying the Earth-Zykari alliance. After Koran's bombshell, that Ambassador Tvara had staged a fake plot to strengthen the alliance, only for Vanguard to hijack it with a deadlier scheme. They knew time was slipping away like sand through their fingers. Solara's grip on Jake's hand tightened, her eyes scanning the crowd with a security officer's focus. Tvara's by the east window, talking to Earth's Secretary General, she whispered, her voice soft but razor-sharp. But I'm picking up an odd signal from her wrist device. It's high-level Zykari code, not standard security protocol. She's communicating with someone, and I don't think it's our team. Jake nodded, his engineer's instincts cataloging every detail with battle-honed clarity. His gaze landed on Commander Ramirez, Earth's security chief, stationed near a secondary control panel in a far corner. Ramirez's fingers tapped rapidly on a personal device, his eyes darting suspiciously. Ramirez, Jake murmured. He's involved. Bet he's signaling someone in Vanguard. We need to move before he slips into the crowd. They glided through the hall, playing the perfect interspecies couple, each step calculated to avoid attention. Their soul link ensured flawless coordination, from the firm yet natural clasp of their hands to the fleeting, affectionate glances that fooled even the keen-eyed Zykari, known for reading emotions through a single look. But inside, their hearts raced, taut as bowstrings, aware of the looming danger. If Vanguard activated their backup plan, a superweapon hidden in the gate network, the Nexus, along with both species leaders, would vanish in an energy blast capable of obliterating a planet. They approached Farah as the Secretary-General departed, leaving her alone by a vast window framing Earth's glowing sphere. "Ambassador," Solara said, bowing with practiced deference, her voice smooth as silk but edged with caution. "We've uncovered something about interspecies protocols. Could we speak privately? It'll only take a moment." Tvara's emerald eyes flickered with an unreadable glint, as if weighing a move in an unseen game. "Of course, Lady Solara," she replied, her tone even but commanding. She led them to a secluded observation deck, its transparent walls giving the illusion of floating among the stars. As the metal door clicked shut, Jake activated a compact security field from a device in his pocket, a technician's tool he always carried. The field hummed faintly, blocking any eavesdropping. Jake cut to the chase, his eyes locked on Tvara. "We know you're communicating with Vanguard of Purity, Ambassador," he said, his voice low but cutting, ready to slice through any lies. "Are you running this show, or are you just their puppet?" Tvara froze, her emerald eyes widening for a fleeting moment before she regained her composure, offering a cold, calculated smile. "You're sharper than I expected," she said, her voice steady but laced with arrogant confidence. "But you're wrong. I'm not Vanguard. I'm hunting them. My device is tracking signals from the real masterminds, and I'm close to pinpointing them." Tvara revealed she'd long suspected Vanguard and used Koran as bait to draw them out. But she hadn't anticipated how deeply Vanguard had infiltrated, not just Zykari governance, but Earth's as well. "Ramirez," she said, urgency creeping into her voice, her eyes flashing with rare worry. "He's the key. He's working with Zykari extremists to activate a superweapon in the station's energy core. If it detonates, it won't just destroy Nexus. It'll collapse the gate network, triggering a chain reaction that could wipe out dozens of planets in seconds." Solara's grip on Jake's hand tightened, her eyes blazing with resolve, though a flicker of fear crossed them at the threat scale. "Then we stop him," she said, her voice unwavering. "Where's the energy core, and what do we need to disable it?" "3 levels down, restricted zone," Tvara replied, her tone sharp as a command. "But be cautious. Ramirez has a team of mercenaries armed with advanced Zykari tech, energy rifles, personal force fields, and jammers. I'll distract the officials here, keep them clear of the area, but you must act fast. We may have only 20 minutes before he triggers the weapon." Jake and Solara bolted from the deck, racing through Nexus's gleaming corridors with the urgency of those who knew every second was life or death. Their soul link let them communicate without words, sensing each other's intentions through subtle mental vibrations. Jake felt Solara's anxiety but also her fierce courage, spurring him forward. They dodged patrols and station staff, reaching the energy core's restricted zone, where Ramirez's mercenary team blocked their path, led by the man himself. "Which way, engineer?" Ramirez sneered, brandishing a Zykari energy rifle, its blue barrel glowing ominously. "Or does your Zykari girlfriend think she can save the galaxy with her fancy moves?" Jake didn't reply, his eyes scanning the room, calculating. He yanked Solara behind a thick steel wall as a volley of energy bolts scorched past, leaving charred marks on the metal. The air reeked of ozone, the blast echoes ringing. "Solara, can you disable their guns?" he whispered, urgency in his low voice. "Need to get closer," she replied, her eyes glinting with determination, though her breath hitched from their earlier sprint. "Zykari rifles have hidden safety locks. If I can touch them, I can shut them down. But you'll need to distract them." Jake nodded, his mind racing with a plan. He grabbed a jagged metal fragment from the floor, a remnant of a destroyed device, and hurled it at the mercenaries, startling them. Solara darted out, swift as a phantom, her Zykari martial arts a blur of lethal grace. She felled 2 mercenaries before they could fire, her fingers hitting the locks on their rifles, which whined and powered down. Jake seized the moment, sprinting to a nearby panel, his fingers flying across the interface to activate an emergency defense system. Steel doors slammed shut with a thunderous clang, splitting the mercenary team, but Ramirez remained on their side, advancing toward the energy core with a smug grin. As Jake and Solara confronted Ramirez in the core chamber, he dropped a chilling revelation. The superweapon wasn't just a destructive device. It was an experimental gate designed to open an unknown dimension. "Who do you think you're saving?" Ramirez laughed, his voice booming in the vast chamber, where the prototype gate's purple light pulsed violently. "Vanguard doesn't want to destroy the Alliance. They want to open a door to a greater power, one that'll make Earth and Zykari beg for mercy. You're just pawns in a bigger game." Solara met Jake's eyes, worry flickering in her gaze, but resolve burned brighter. "If he activates that gate, we don't know what'll come through," she said, her voice low but firm. "An army, an entity, or something worse. We stop him, Jake. Now." Jake clenched his fists, his eyes locked on Ramirez, who stood before the core's main panel. "Then we end this," he said, his voice steady with determination. "Together." The final battle erupted in the core chamber, the prototype gate's purple light raging like a caged storm. Ramirez activated a personal force field, a shimmering blue barrier shielding him, blocking Jake and Solara's approach. Jake, with years of technical expertise, spotted a weakness, an energy coupling deep within the gate's field, which could be manually disconnected. But reaching it meant entering the field, a near-suicidal act, as the energy could shred a body in seconds. "I'll do it," Jake said, shedding his tuxedo jacket, revealing a sweat-soaked technician's shirt. "I know gates. I've studied them for months." Solara grabbed his arm, her eyes wide with fear, a rare crack in her steely facade. "Jake, no," she said, her voice trembling. "If you die, I—" She paused, her hand drifting to her stomach, sensing a subtle shift since their soul link. "I think I'm pregnant. Our child. You can't risk it, not now." The revelation hit Jake like a fist, stealing his breath. He pulled her into a tight embrace, feeling the warmth of her silver skin, and kissed her forehead. "That's why I have to," he whispered. "For you, for me, for our kid." Solara nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks, but she stood tall, resuming her security officer's composure. "I'll guide you from the panel," she said, her voice steady. "The field fluctuates every 10 seconds, creating a 1.5-second window when it's weak. Disconnect the coupling then, or the field will restabilize and—" Her eyes said the rest. Jake stepped into the field, agony ripping through him, every cell screaming as if torn apart. Through the purple haze, he saw the coupling glowing like a monstrous heart. Solara's voice crackled through his calm, clear and calm, guiding him. "Left, Jake. 3 steps. Wait for the fluctuation, now!" He moved, his callous fingers grazing the scalding metal release mechanism. But Ramirez, sensing the plan, roared and triggered an energy surge from the panel, making the field pulse violently, like an invisible tsunami. "Jake, you've got 0.8 seconds!" Solara shouted through the calm, panic cracking her voice. With a final surge of will, Jake twisted the mechanism, disconnecting the coupling with a sharp click. The gate shuddered, its purple light fading, and a cosmic gust threw Jake clear. He hit the metal floor, body aching but alive, breath ragged. Solara rushed to him, kneeling, wrapping him in her arms, tears mingling with a relieved smile. "You did it," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You're alive." Ramirez, his force field gone, stood stunned. Before he could react, Tavares' security team stormed in, subduing him with swift precision. The prototype gate powered down, its purple glow extinguished, and the gate network stabilized, pulled back from the brink. As security dragged Ramirez away, he twisted back, spitting a final taunt at Jake and Solara. You think you've won? Vanguard isn't just us. They're everywhere, in your governments, in Zykari councils. This is only the first step. His words hung like a dark cloud, hinting at a deeper, lingering threat. Tvara entered the court chamber, her eyes lingering on Jake and Solara, now standing hand in hand. You've achieved the impossible, she said, her voice laced with rare respect, a stark contrast to her usual icy demeanor. Because of you, the Alliance has a fighting chance. But Ramirez is right about one thing: Vanguard is bigger than we thought. It'll take both our species to root them out. Jake met Solara's gaze, feeling their soul link, an unbreakable bond. We'll keep fighting, he said, his voice firm. Not just for the Alliance, but for the future we're building, for Earth, for Zykari. Solara smiled, her hand resting on her stomach, her eyes shimmering with hope. And for our child, she whispered, just for him. They stood amid the battle's wreckage, knowing the war with Vanguard was far from over, but certain that together, they could face any challenge ahead. Jake Sullivan awoke in the Nexus space station's medical bay, soft light from the window bathing his face, reflecting Earth's shimmering blue-green orb in the void. His head throbbed, his body ached from the battle and the energy core, but his heart surged as he felt Solara's warm hand clasping his. She sat beside him, her emerald eyes gleaming with relief tinged with worry, her platinum hair cascading like liquid silver under the glow. You scared the hell out of me, Jake Sullivan, Solara said, her voice a mix of reproach and deep affection, a gentle melody amid the storm they'd weathered. Don't ever dive into an energy field like that again. Jake managed a weak smile, the soul link between them humming, an invisible thread binding their thoughts and emotions. Just call me Jake, he rasped. After all this, I think we're past Sullivan, don't you? Solara's smile warmed, and she leaned down, pressing a soft kiss to his forehead, the warmth of her silver skin grounding him. All right, Jake, she whispered, her eyes twinkling with mischief. But if you make me worry like that again, I'll drag you out of any gate myself. The medical bay's door slid open, and Ambassador Tvara entered, her Zykari gown hugging her form, its metallic patterns glinting. She stood tall, authoritative yet stripped of her former coldness. You've achieved the impossible, she said, her voice rich with respect, a rare concession from a Zykari accustomed to distance. Ramirez and Vanguard of Purity's key members are in custody. Thanks to your collaboration, the Interspecies Treaty will be re-signed with stricter terms, ensuring lasting peace. Solara's hand drifted to her stomach, where she sensed new life growing, a product of their soul link and love. Her eyes met Jake's, radiant with hope. And more, she said, her voice soft but resolute. Our child will symbolize a harmonious future, where humans and Zykari build together, undivided. Tvara nodded, a rare smile flickering across her face. I was wrong to manipulate you, she admitted, her tone softer. I thought a staged crisis would solidify the Alliance, but your courage and unity proved it's worth saving and fighting for. Jake squeezed Solara's hand, feeling their bond's resonance. We didn't do it for you or the treaty, he said, his gaze steady on Tvara. We did it for the future, for what our species can achieve together. Tvara bowed slightly, a Zykari gesture of respect. I understand. And I promise, from now on, no secrets. The Alliance needs transparency, and you've laid its foundation. 6 months later, Jake and Solara stood before a new teleportation gate at Earth's diplomatic center, a marvel blending Zykari precision with human ingenuity. The massive metal ring glowed with steady blue light, no longer flickering as it had in Jake's early struggles. This gate wasn't just technology, it was a symbol of an alliance forged through trials and sacrifice. Solara, visibly pregnant, wore an elegant Zykari gown, its silver patterns enhancing her alien beauty. Jake, in a new ambassador's uniform with an interspecies insignia, stood beside her, his eyes shining with pride. He leaned down, adjusting her gown's collar, his fingers brushing her metallic skin. Ready for our first diplomatic mission, Mrs. Sullivan? He asked, his tone teasing but brimming with love. Solara laughed, resting her hand on his, savoring his familiar warmth. Only if you promise not to break this gate, she replied, her eyes sparkling with playfulness. I'm not rescuing you from another dimension. Jake chuckled, pulling her into a gentle embrace, mindful of her condition. No gate would dare malfunction with you around, he murmured, kissing her hair, her mint and metal scent making him smile. They stepped toward the gate, its blue light enveloping them like a welcoming embrace. Behind them, a crowd of Earth and Zykari officials applauded, but Jake and Solara only had eyes for each other, their gazes speaking volumes. They'd overcome conspiracies, danger, and doubt to reach this moment. Their soul link let them feel each other, Solara's excitement, Jake's resolve, and their shared hope for a brighter future. Tvara, presiding nearby, raised a hand for silence. Today, we unveil a new gate, a symbol of the Earth-Zykari alliance, she declared, her voice resonant. But more, we honor those who saved it, Jake Sullivan and Solara, who proved courage and cooperation can transcend all boundaries. The crowd cheered, but Jake and Solara only tightened their grip. They stepped through the gate, the blue light carrying them to a Zykari colony planet, where they'd begin their first diplomatic mission as interspecies ambassadors. Before them lay not uncertainty, but a future they'd shaped, a future where human bravery and Zykari wisdom intertwined, ushering in a new galactic era. As the gate's light faded, Jake felt a gentle pulse from Solara through their soul link, joy, trust, and love. He looked at her, smiling. We did it, Solara. And we'll keep going. She nodded, her hand on her stomach, her eyes blazing. Together, she said. For our child, and for everything we fought for. They emerged from the gate, ready for new challenges, knowing that no matter how vast the universe, they had each other, and a stronger alliance backing them. Dear reader, as you close the journey of Jake Sullivan and Solara in Across the Divide, I hope their saga of courage, love, and interspecies unity has left its mark on you. From Jake's fist slamming a gate's control panel to Solara's hand in his as they stepped into the future, this tale isn't just about saving an Earth-Zykari alliance, it's about the power of understanding across species. Its core truth is this: the greatest strength lies not in tech or weapons, but in unity and love, which can bridge even the vastest cosmic divides. Jake, a steadfast human engineer, and Solara, a sharp-witted Zykari officer, showed us that when two species trust each other, no conspiracy or superweapon can stand in their way. Their soul link, a bond beyond the physical, reminds us that love and empathy are the strongest bridges. The lesson? In a universe of conflict, only genuine cooperation and courage pave the path to peace and hope. Their child, a symbol of the Alliance, promises a better future if we choose to stand together. I wove this story in quiet hours, when visions of a human engineer and a Zykari warrior intertwined, posing a question: what happens when alien worlds find common ground? Now I turn to you, who've walked with Jake and Solara. Your feedback lights my creative path. Did Solara's pregnancy revelation move you? Did Jake's human tenacity make you proud? Did Vanguard's shadow spark curiosity about untold secrets? Share your thoughts, whispers of awe or shouts of excitement. Like the soul link between Jake and Solara, the bond between writer and reader is magic, shaping future tales. And who knows? Vanguard may still be watching, awaiting a new chapter. Will you join me?